John McLaughlin, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you very much, Greg. Thanks for having me.
John, you're widely considered as one of the major pioneers of jazz fusion music. You helped define a genre of music. Do you ever take the time to look back at your accomplishments with a degree of pride, or are you always looking forward?
I don't look back very often, Greg. It's true. When you get to my age, every day is a blessing, and I'd rather just live the day. This day, this moment. We never know. Probably because the past few weeks, I've lost dear ones. COVID, also through cancer. So, and even my friends younger than me. So it's always a wake-up call when you lose someone, isn't it? We realize actually we're quite fragile beings, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I don't really. It happens in a more spontaneous way and more in a musical way, Greg, than I don't think I'm very grateful for being a musician, for the success I've had over the years. Don't misunderstand me. I'm all gratitude as far as that's concerned. But basically, when I retrospect, it's musically, the different periods that I've had, because I've gone through a number of periods, musical periods, genre, I suppose you'd call them, and they're all part of me. And every now and then I am influenced by one more than another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I may have to move, and I'll be listening only to Indian music for a while, or I'll be listening to flamenco music, or I'll be listening to Miles, or I'll be listening to Coltrane, or I'll listen to Bill Evans, or I'll listen to Sly and the Family Stone, or James Brown,
Yeah.
And that's so. But as far as what have I accomplished? What have I accomplished? I'm very fortunate just to be alive, Greg.
What about your parents? Did they display pride at your achievements? Did they celebrate any specific events or performances?
Who?
Your parents.
My parents?
Yeah.
Did you? Oh, I left my parents a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of five, Greg. So.
But were they able to enjoy any of your achievements?
My mother, yes. Yeah, because my parents divorced when I was 7, and I really didn't see my father really the rest of my life, unfortunately. But my mother, actually, thanks to her, that I'm a musician. She was an amateur violinist, and she put me on the musical road already when I was 8, studying piano. So, and yes, I was able at one time to bring her to a concert. Well, this is many years ago, and it was with the Shakti group in the 70s, where I don't know if you recall that very first Shakti group with El Shankar on violin. And so she was amazed to see this young Indian violin player, who's such a virtuoso, and of course a completely different style. The way they hold the violin, it's not like this at all. They balance the heel on their foot and play it like this. It's really quite extraordinary. And she really loved it. She thought it was marvelous. So that was really that's, and she knew I was making records, but unfortunately she succumbed to Alzheimer's at a quite early age. And that's hard. It was hard for all the family, really.
Yeah. Fast forwarding to this year, and let's talk about the brilliant new album, Liberation Time, recorded remotely with your friends around the globe.
Social distancing, Greg, yes.
But even from the opening notes of the first track, As the Spring Sings, you come out swinging. There's no easing into it. You're straight into the licks.
Yeah, I know. It's in your face. I know. But the thing is, the last concerts I had, well, I had one this year. That's it.
Yeah.
I had two last year, but they were both, one was on January the 11th, 2020, and January the 13th. One was in Kolkata in India, and the other was in Singapore with the Shakti group. And that was it for that year. And I had a major European tour with Fourth Dimension, the jazz band, lined up. And then we also had a short tour of Japan last November, and everything got blown out of the water. And so by the time October came, I was like, I was going up the wall, because my whole life I'm a tour, and playing. And there was, in Europe, France and Monaco, they were really, it was really a difficult time. I mean, not just the lockdown, but also the curfew that we went through. We had curfew for over 4 months, so it was couldn't go out anywhere from 6 o'clock in the evening, and then it was 7 o'clock, but each time was like 6 weeks later. Anyway, it was very difficult. And so I got really crazy, just like not playing live. I mean, I play at home. I play at home anyway, simply because because I love to play, and it gives me a feeling of freedom. But at that point of where I was feeling all bottled up, as if something's got to give here, and it did. And one day I started writing the music for this album, and it all came out in a big rush. And I was very fortunate in beginning sending out sessions and doing this social distance recording already by March last year. Because the lockdown started on St. Patrick's Day of all days. Not a nice day to start a lockdown, is it? In any event, by March, I was getting together with different musicians, Fourth Dimension. Over the months, successive months, we made these kind of audio visual things for the internet, for YouTube, which were all fundraisers. Because I might have been bottled up and frustrated, but millions of people in dire straits, really. So we worked with different institutions to try to help, because musicians, actors, actresses, directors. I mean, we're all in deep doo-doo, really. But we did a thing with the Fourth Dimension. We did a thing with Shakti. I did a fundraiser with Carlos Santana, Michael Walden. I did some solo things. So by the time October came and all this music came out, I was used to this way of social distance recording. Sounds so weird, I know. In any event, so basically I would set up the session, and because my first instrument was piano, so it was not a problem to do a piano part and bass part. That was all right. And also, during all the time I lived in America, I had a drum kit. I never played people, but I played for myself. So I was able to make a drum. Basically, I would make the whole track, then I would play my part. And I think because I was so full of energy and everything. This is why it comes out. It's in your face, Greg. That's sorry about that, but that's the way it came out. The other thing was that the whole title of the album came from that, because it's Liberation Time was something I desperately needed, that the feeling of playing with people. And so I would send out these sessions, whether Pro Tools or Logic, with the scores and with notes to all the different musicians. But basically say, listen, this is liberation time, and so I don't want any of you to play the way I've played. You've got the score, and you hear me playing, but don't in any way play what you think I might like. I want you to play exactly what I want you liberated too, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So, and so I think that this really, they felt, all the musicians felt that, they're certainly as frustrated as I was. I mean, we were all going bonkers. And so they would get the tape, they'd hear me playing, and they'd start playing bass and the drums and keyboards, and saxophone also. But sometimes I'd get the session back, Greg, and they'd taken it up to a different level, and I had to redo my part again, because they were so on top of it, and full of spirit and the energy, and that was such a lovely feeling, because finally when I listened to the mix, also the mix, God bless technology for this, because I was able to mix at a distance with a new app that came out last year called Audio Movers. And my favorite engineer is in London with his studio, and I was at home in Monaco with my speakers, and I could listen to what he was doing with only a 19 milliseconds delay. And so I would see him on Zoom on my laptop. I mean, it was really amazing. So when I finally heard the whole thing together, I was really amazed myself. I felt so happy. I felt liberated to a degree. And this is really how it came out. What surprises me is people's reaction to it, like yours, Greg. Where you feel this energy coming out of the music, and this is great. And I think, in a way, to make this long explanation end, I think it's partly due to the fact that we were all blocked by COVID, and this just feeling imprisoned artistically just led up to everybody having a lot of energy, and they were able to let loose on the album. And I think this is I'm very happy the way it came out.
Yeah, sure. There are a different combination of musicians on each track. How did you go about deciding who would play on each song?
I just thought of different people, and I thought of Vinny Colaiuta, because Vinny and I, we go back so many years, and he's such a great drummer and such a lovely guy too. I mean, we're very dear friends, but we got to play and tour together in the 5-piece band group with Chick. I don't know if you remember that album. I think we were actually in Australia, weren't we? Oh, it might not have been with Vinny. Might have been with Brian Glade at that time, because I know we were down there with Chick. But I wanted to. There's a couple of musicians here who teach at the Academy of Jazz in Monaco, whom I have great admiration for, especially the pianist. He's playing piano on Singing Our Secrets. I don't know if you remember, he does a marvelous introduction of that, and his playing is just lovely. there's a young pianist I'd never had an opportunity to play with that I've known for some time, Oz Ezeldine, and he recorded his part in Cairo. Well, he's from Egypt. Vinny was in LA. Oz was in Egypt. There were a couple of tracks done in London. I was looking for young musicians who really not very known, just because I know even people like me, the elder generation, we're really struggling. I mean, I've had one gig this year, and I don't know if I have any more on the way. Nothing before next year. But for the younger generation of musicians, it's dramatic, Greg. Which is why I'm in touch with a number of people who they're kind of protege of mine, and they might, and I have some in America, but some in India also. And they are suffering like martyrs. It's really terrible. I mean, one guy I know in India, he had to sell his house because he ran out of money. I mean, it's awful. It's awful. So, so this two young bass players I'd never known before. One was Sam Burgess, who's in the house band at Ronnie Scott's in London, very fine player, and a young French bass player, Jérôme Regard. And he played with a great young drummer, French-Italian drummer, who is basically from Nice, Nicolas Vicaro. And in fact, the one concert I had this year, normally the drummer in Fourth Dimension is Ranjit Bharat, who lives in Mumbai. I mean, he was blocked. No way he could come out with one concert. Anyway, he couldn't come out even for a tour because there was this block, I think it was just completely European. And so I was able to use this young Nicolas Vicaro for the concert we had, and he just really rose for the occasion. And his saxophone player that actually I worked with on a movie score a couple of years ago that I did. It's for a New York film. I mean, it's filmed in New York. It's a New York story in a way, and called Julian Siegel, and a fine tenor saxophone player from Britain. And of course, Fourth Dimension, but the Fourth Dimension, of course, we couldn't come together as a band, Ranjit had to do it in Mumbai, Etienne Mbappé had to do it in Paris, Gary had to do it in London. But somehow it all came together.
You did, yeah.
I don't know how you feel about, because there were two piano pieces in there.
Yeah, they're wonderful interludes.
If you recall, yes.
Yeah.
And those pieces were recorded 40 years ago.
Recorded 40
years ago.
Wow.
But not recorded audio. They recorded in MIDI, and they were in my archives. And I was going through my archives one day, and I haven't seen or heard them for 40 years. I know it seems crazy, but they were recorded MIDI, which means at that time I still had a little technique. I couldn't play that today.
Okay.
But technology again really helped, and Gary Husband, who's the keyboard player in Fourth Dimension, he has this application that comes from the Vienna Symphony, and they have the Vienna Symphony pianos. And so I was able to give him my MIDI file that I recorded 40 years ago, and and we recorded it using a 9-foot Bosendorf. So it's pretty far out when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds strange to, or it might seem strange that I would do like solo piano pieces. But the last time I recorded a piano was on Love, Devotion, Surrender with Carlos, 1973. But somehow, because you must have realized, I mean, you're a musician, that this the music that's on this album, it's definitely, it's looking, I'm looking over my shoulder to the 60s. It's upright bass, the kind of mood and genre of the music. It's really jazz with because this decade was so important to me, where I was listening to Miles and Coltrane, the great jazzmen of that time, and it was really how would I say, where I really knew which direction I wanted to go in as far as music is concerned. Of course, subsequently, I got influenced by in the 60s, because I couldn't make a living playing jazz, so I was surviving through playing rhythm and blues or funk or soul. But just those aspects are all part of Black American music, which is what jazz began as, and it's developed into a global culture now, which is wonderful. And the idea of this kind of 60s, but with the 21st century guitar, was the idea to kind of bring that era up to date. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but not that I intended it, but that's the way the music came out. And it just, so I said, okay, that's the way it is. Anyway, who's going to buy it? There's no more record industry.
A lot of people, I'm sure. We've been talking about technology and technology that allowed this album to be made. You've always had a good relationship with technology over the years. Do you think sometimes technology gets in the way of music, or do you think it always moves it forward?
Well, it depends who's using it, doesn't it, really? For me, I think it's a technology, it's a marvelous tool, because as you point out, because of technology, I was able to make this album. I mean, even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I don't think so, anyway. So it's marvelous, but and for what I use technology for, it's really it's marvelous for archiving, for development. I use the computer as I set up something like, for example, an album, and I will set up some rough sequence, but a difficult one, because I need to be challenged constantly. But it's like this, then I continually learn. In fact, I have to do a masterclass tomorrow with the school of Paul Reed Smith, who is the guitar maker in America. He has a school that happens once a year. It's a 4-day thing. So I'm going to be doing a Zoom thing, and so I've set up these different sessions to demonstrate a particular aspect of playing, or improvisation, or rhythm, or harmony, and so this, with the computer, it's really useful, because it's like having a band or an orchestra in the box, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that, for the development, for my personal development, it's a marvelous tool. Yeah. But it depends where this a lot, this techno beat, and it's a computer drummer. And this, you know, for the most of it, it's boring because I need human beings, Greg. You know, I want to hear a human play. And in a way, the advent of these drum machines, in particular the drum machines, have kind of reduced the drummer to become a human drum machine. You know, they have to be really on time, which is good. That's good. But, you know, don't, you know, don't play around, you know, keep the beat, you know, just boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, and that's it. And this is contrary to my philosophy, musical philosophy. I want the drummers to be as free as me, but in communication, if you know what I mean. Because in jazz music and in improvisation, you can have, which is why I play every day, I can have an experience of freedom. Sometimes less, sometimes more. It's not something you can control. But with other musicians, I mean, live, when you're playing live, you can have this collective experience of freedom, of liberation. And this is unique experience. So this got nothing to do with computers. Computers can play perfectly every time the same thing, and humans can't. But I think that's why I like it.
Yeah.
Because every time is different. Even though you try to play the same thing, it comes out different.
Yeah. But John, how do you know when a composition is finished and you don't need to do anything more to it?
You just know. It's like, you know if you touch it, you'll spoil it. If you touch it again, you'll spoil it. And I learned that the hard way. You know, I tweaked years and years ago to the point it was like, you know, what did I do here? You know, silly, you know, into the rubbish bin.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Many times things have gone into the rubbish bin. But, you know, it's age, Greg, experience, you know, really. I know at a certain point, don't touch it anymore. Just leave it alone. It might be strange, but better strange and original than tweaked, too tweaked. Yeah.
What's your thought process in coming up with titles for instrumental tracks?
Well, it was basically out of life, Greg, isn't it? You know, I mean, you have this experience that I spoke about before, where this album was made, and it was something I felt every day. I need this. I needed to fly. I needed to you know, get this music out. I needed to play, even though playing social distancing. The thing about music is that it's like I remember I mentioned that sometimes things would come back and I would redo my part. And so I would have the whole band there. I put the headphones on. I close my eyes. I'm basically in the same room again. You know, and this is such a great feeling in music. So in that sense, okay, they're not listening to me, but I'm listening to them. So at least it's 50% live, isn't it? You know. I'm sorry, I can't remember what your question was there.
How you come up with the titles for an instrumental?
The titles, yes. So that was the Liberation Time. Is that the second tune, Singing Our Secrets? That's because basically when we're playing, especially in improvised music, you know, in improvised music, you're there, and sometimes you're playing, and everything that's inside actually comes out. So you can, when I can hear, when I listen to a musician, I hear and I see their world, you know, the secret world. It's a secret world that only music can show, or maybe poetry could do it. But this is what I want to see, what I want to hear when I go to a concert. I want that musician to take me into their world. and let me see the secret world that they live in, that you know, in normal world in words can't really show. So this is really about that. There's another title from right on, right here, right now, right on, is because there's only this moment. I only have this moment, which is the only moment I have right now that's real. I mean, somebody once said there are 2 days where you can never do anything: yesterday and tomorrow. And today is all I've got, because who knows what will happen tomorrow. Yesterday is gone, it's finished, nothing can do about it, and tomorrow doesn't exist. So it's really about now is the time. That, I think Charlie Parker wrote a song called Now is the Time, and it's just an echo of that same feeling. And where the titles come from, sometimes I'll read a poem and I'll see a couple of words together, because I like poetry. And just 2 words put together that normally wouldn't be together work something. They provoke an image or a feeling inside of me. But this happens in meditation a lot too, Greg, because I've been meditating 50 years now. But every morning I like to meditate, and actually I like to write poems too myself. So I like to use words. If I'm inspired, if I'm not inspired, I don't write anything.
Yeah. Do you get emotionally attached to your instruments, or are they just tools?
And I'm absolutely attached to it. I mean, I love the guitar, but I fell in love with the guitar when I was 11. That was the very first time I had the guitar, and it's a love affair since then. Absolutely, I love the guitar. I love all instruments, but the guitar is truly special to me.
Yeah. Have you kept most of your old instruments?
No, I haven't. No, I should have, but. Guitars have come to me over the years. And the thing I have a feeling about instruments need to be played. I think they're almost like living beings. And if they're not played, they get sick. And that's the only way I can see it. So, and of course, I've run into guitar players, young, talented players who've got really crummy instruments. So I've given a lot of guitars away over the years. Yeah. Yes, and I have regrets now, but I'm happy that hopefully they're still in good hands.
Yeah, John, there's a Facebook group dedicated to you and your music, and it has over 20,000 followers, and they're very passionate about your music. When I heard that I'd be interviewing you, I thought I'd ask the group what they want to know from you. So if you don't mind, just a few questions from the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll answer briefly. Yes.
Yeah. This guy, Marshall Schaffer, could you ask John if he thinks he may have recorded again with Larry Young, Khaled Yassin, had he not passed away?
Of course. Absolutely. I grew up with Hammond organ trios in the 60s, whether it was Georgie Fame or Graham Bond or Mike Carr Trio, and then of course with Tony Williams and Khaled Yassin. He had a great impact on me when I first heard him play in 66 or 67. What a marvelous player, a marvelous human being too.
Yeah. A guy named Ken Sokolov asks how important an influence Django Reinhardt was on you, and what guitarists did you emulate when you were starting to play?
Well, I got thanks to my older brothers. Actually, they're the ones who gave me the guitar in the first place, and they were in university when the blues boom swept the UK. It started around 1952, and so when they brought the guitar home, they brought home these blues records, and so I got exposed. All I'd been doing was playing piano, classical piano. But I I had the guitar, and I heard they were bringing Big Bill Broonzy, Led Belly, Robert Johnson, Mississippi Fred McDowell, the great Mississippi blues players. So this had a huge impact on me. And eventually they introduced me to flamenco guitar playing. They introduced me to Django Reinhardt. Django was a revelation because he was so fluid how he played. I mean, it was just lovely. What a lovely player. And also when he was playing with Stefan Grappelli, the violin, and I tried to study violin under my mom, but I was hopeless, which is why I went to piano. But I think it was through Django Reinhardt who put me really on the road to jazz.
Yeah.
That's a big road too.
Sure.
Yes. Please.
Tim Sweeney says, please ask him to relate a special personal story about the late mandolin Srinivas.
Oh, Srinivas, mandolin Srinivas. It's always painful because I actually got to know Srinivas in 1986, something like this. And he was very young at the time, but he heard I was coming to India, or 85 was it? We were touring India with the first Shakti. And I got a call from him. And I'd seen him play with Viku Vinayakram, who was the other percussionist in the original Shakti band in the 70s. He had to go back to India to take care of the school that his father founded. And I saw Srinivas play. He must have been 12 or 13 at the time. And he killed me. He was just, it was amazing. And so let's fast forward very quickly to 1998, when Zakir Hussain and I decided to reform the Shakti group. But Shankar, the violinist, wasn't interested. And we had the son of Viku Vinayakram. And so we didn't have another melodic instrument. So Zakir was saying, well, who shall we take? And I said, well, why don't we ask Srinivas to come into the band? And the rest is history. He came in, and we were like brothers, really. I love him as like a brother. And it was just awful to lose him. So young, 45 years old. He was a prodigy. He was brilliant, fantastic musician, and just lovely human being.
Yeah.
I miss him.
One more.
Sorry, I went on too long, but
no, that's
was
fine. One last one from the group. Dwayne Clark asks, how did the tour with Jack Bruce, Billy Cobham, and Stu Goldberg come about?
That's a strange one, because originally, on the electric guitarist album, which was sometime in the 70s, there was a number of, every track was different, had a different lineup. And one of the lineups was with Tony Williams and Jack Bruce. Because Jack and I, we go back to the 60s with Graham Bond. This is when he was playing double bass. Before he was playing bass guitar, he first went to Manfred Mann and then Cream, and that was the rest is history with Cream. In any event, we recorded together, and I loved this trio, Tony and Jack together. So we recorded, and then I was invited to do a tour, and I thought, well, let me try to. I think, my goodness, was it the 80s? Yes, it was. It must have been the early 80s, and then Tony called and said, I have to. I'm not able to do the tour. And he didn't give me a reason. I thought, oh, geez. So I called Billy Cobham, and I say, yeah, are you free? Let's hit the road with Jack. And but we brought Stu Goldberg in, who was in the last version of Mahavishnu around 1975. So it was really a special tour because we never as a group played together. So we rehearsed, of course, and we went on the road and we had some great nights. Jack, I know he was having his own problems, but and don't we all at some point? And in any event, the tour was very successful, and I would like to have recorded that, but somehow we never got round to it. Like I never was able to record the One Truth Band with Sonship, what's his name? Thaddeus, yeah, and T.M. Stevens, and the band had Al Shankar in it. This was 1978, something like that. Another band that we never were able to make a record with. So, but the tour itself, it was great. Just to get back with Billy, and just one little anecdote about Billy, because, and this happened about 15 years, 12 years ago. And, you know, Billy lives in Switzerland. And I was at the Montreux Festival, where I've been going for the last 50 years, exactly 50 years, my goodness. And but I was going there with my family every year, even if I wasn't playing. We go there because it's a beautiful place to be, and there's fantastic hiking behind Montreux. And so when we were on bikes going around the other side of the lake, and I got a call from Claude Nobbs, who's the founder, and he said, John, he says, can you play tonight? I said, can I play? Yeah. What happened? He said, well, there's a group, it was one of these glam rock bands got stuck in Montreal. The plane broke down and they would never make it to the concert. And he said, I'll call Billy. So, you know, I said, I don't have a guitar. He said, I've got plenty of guitars. I said, fine, all right, yes, you're on, I'm in. So Billy and I, we went on stage that night, just the two of us, and played from memory music from Mahavishnu. And it was a wonderful experience. I mean, just what a great drummer he is. You know, we were really, really very tight in those days. So you know, Billy's always been very dear to me, but Jack also, because Jack and I, we go back, my goodness, to 1964, 65. Oh, yeah. And I do miss him. Yeah. But another one gone.
Yeah. One last question and we'll let you go. You've been so generous with your time, John. We all leave the planet at some point. When you do, how would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered?
Yeah.
Any way you want. I really don't care. It's a funny question. Oh my. No, I'm a musician, Greg. I'm just a musician. That's all. If they like the music, great. If they don't, hey, listen to somebody else. No? I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, for sure. All right, John, it's been such an honor and a pleasure to chat with you. And thank you so much.
My pleasure, Greg. My pleasure. Lots of fun. Thanks a lot for allowing me the opportunity to speak about what I've been doing.